GoPro capture. GoPro capture. Oh, you are capturing. Well, a lovely morning here in the forest. I don't know what I'm going to shoot, but I'll have a look, and I've no doubt I'll find something to catch my eye. Well, this whole area used to be flooded as a mossland. It's dried out. I don't know why either, because it's been quite wet this summer. Maybe they're draining it, but then again, all change is good because it brings new photographic opportunity. It's probably worth mentioning here that my time is probably limited to an hour or two, because the little midges will come out and eat me alive. They're already starting to buzz around, but they're a little bit sleepy, not been nipped yet, so I better crack on. Now, first composition is a really simple one, and that's what I like to get started with. It's not taxing at all, small path running through the forest, trees either side, some lovely light at the top. Nice again to use my standard lens, yellow filter, f22, everything's going to be sharp front to back, that's exactly what I want. And metering. Metering comes out around about, I reckon, a second to give plenty of shadow detail. And I'm shooting XP2 Super, by the way, rated at an EI of 250, so tons of shadow detail. I think I'll put those shadows on a zone 4 as well. So take one at 1 second and then do one at 2 seconds. Worth mentioning here that when I lined up this shot at first, I was missing something, and I realised what that was. It was something in the foreground for the eye to latch onto. So what I need to do is make sure I get this lovely bush in here, well, weeds really, nettles, and there are little white flowers on there, and they add so much to that bottom left of the composition. Without that, I wouldn't bother taking it. Right, pack up quickly, midge hell is starting. I need to get a couple more frames in the bag to make sure I've exercised my trigger fingers. Now, I mentioned on a recent video, or I talked on a recent video, about the difference between static and dynamic landscape photography, with dynamic being me on a long walk on a simple camera clicking away. Well, this is the second type. This is the static traditional photography, set up with a tripod, careful metering, careful choice of composition. The thing is though, I do need to get that first shot in the bag when I'm working this way, because I can very quickly get disheartened tromping around a forest like this, and forests are a hard subject to shoot at the best of times. And if I can get a shot in the bag, it doesn't have to be spectacular. It means I've already got something to go with. I can go back and develop it and work on it. And now I feel the pressure's off and I can relax a little bit, so I can look around. And I don't know, I just find it easier to pick out compositions when I'm already off the mark, if you like. I've already left the starting blocks, and I'm certain I can find something else in this area. But yeah, psychology and your mindset, it's very important in landscape photography. One of the things I like most about shooting in my local forest is coming across small, anonymous scenes, these little intimate locations which are bound. There are millions of them in every single forest location. They're nothing special. They're a tree trunk, they're a log, there's some ferns, there's some nettles or thistles, and they'll never be the same twice. Now, the nice thing is to be able to isolate part of that scene and crop in on it and make something a bit more special of it, because taken as a whole, when you're walking around this morning, it's just blinded by greenery and trees, and it's very easy to start shooting trees, as my first shot demonstrated. But this sort of photography takes a little bit more thought, and it's a bit more rewarding, to be honest. So what I have here is this fallen tree trunk, and I have some, well, weeds really, thistles, nettles, ferns. But what I'm trying to do is isolate and bring the eye into these lovely light green leaves here, and they're going to be the bottom of my composition. But I do want some of these ferns here cropping into the frame a little bit, otherwise it's too much tree trunk. There's an awful lot of tree trunk in there, which is fine, but I do need these light areas to catch the eye, and these other areas here to sort of frame that tree. And these little white flowers are a godsend for black and white photography. So let's have a quick look at the camera settings for this image, and no surprise again, it's the 80mm. It's an excellent lens. It also has quite a good close-up capability. It's not a macro, it does focus quite close though. F22, I need that depth of field. Absolutely no guarantee that I'm going to get it all in focus either. So if it fades out a little bit in the back, I can live with that. I've said it many times before, it actually adds a sort of natural vignette to pull your eye into the centre of the image. Now I've metered for a very dark area in the scene. It's very dark, and I do want this to be a light image. I don't want to be inky black shadows unless I choose to put them in later. And if I give it plenty of exposure, I can choose how to process it later when I do Lightroom or darkroom printing. Exposure wise, it's going to be again 1 second and 2 seconds. No filter this time though. I don't really see the benefit of the filter in this situation, but mainly the reason is there's a little bit of movement, and an extra second, 2 seconds, and it may be even 3 or 4 seconds with reciprocity. You know, you're sort of slipping into that possible blurring going on in there, and I don't really want a blur in this image. It's not like when I get trees wafting about, I enjoy that. This is definitely more of a still life. Something else I'm trying to do this morning is not walk too far. And that's not because I'm lazy, although I do feel a bit tired this morning. It's largely because I don't see the point in tromping for miles through the forest, which is all very similar looking this morning. It's much of a muchness because of the amount of dense foliage and growth we have at this time of year. So if I restrict myself to a much smaller area and don't walk 4 or 5 miles getting tired, I'm going to have to try harder to find something. Now, when I'm working locally and I can come back here anytime I want because it's only 5 minutes from my house, I can afford that luxury. I can afford the luxury of possibly wasting a trip or two in seeking out simple or new images. Whereas if I went somewhere special, I would have to go for the dramatic shots, the big shots, the ones I'm not going to see again. So another advantage to working local is that you can just take your time. Well, I think I'm on a bit of a roll with these close-up shots, these more intimate landscapes in the forest. I found another fallen tree trunk, and the nice thing is there are other bits of tree and foliage intersecting now within my square frame. This creates a lovely composition. They sort of all complement each other and hold each other in. They aren't pulling out of the frame and distracting my eye, so perfect for me. So let's look at what I've got here. Now obviously I have this tree trunk, fallen tree trunk going through the frame, and I also have this one across here forming a bit of an arch, and then I have another one down here at the bottom and some foliage in between, so there's plenty of separation. But also this little one going up here sort of brings my eye around this square frame, and my crop is a little bit tighter than I'm showing here because it's a GoPro, so I'm sort of getting this sort of composition. I'm having these lovely light leaves in the foreground again, and this is a bright tree trunk to catch the eye, and that's the central focus of the image. But these other components balance it nicely. And I think once I get that back and processed, and I can bring some vignetting into the sides to remove some of the distracting highlights at the top here, it'll make a very nice image. Now, as per the other 2 shots taken today, it's the 80mm again. It's 22 again. I have got a yellow filter on this time. There's less wind movement, and I think that is going to create a bit of separation between some of the various greens and yellows and the tree trunk. It'll probably give it a slightly more contrast because it's quite dull now. And metering again, I have gone for a very deep shadow, and I've shot at 2 seconds and 4 seconds. I am looking for, getting bitten now, I am looking for that glow I'm looking for plenty of detail on my XP2. I don't want to be getting that Sutton whitewash look, so yeah, tons of exposure. Well, that's me done for the morning. Already I've got 3 shots, which I like. They're a bit different to what I've been shooting lately up in the mountains. And I was about to say nothing spectacular, as if that was a bad thing. But it can't always be spectacular. Fjords, mountains, huge vistas. It's small, it's quiet, it's different. It won't be ever seen again. Even if I came back tomorrow, it would look different. Different light. Some of the nettles will have gone. Be more dog walkers rubbish lying around. So yeah, interesting, very interesting, and also good practice with the Bronica. So yes, going to get these developed quite quickly in my GoPro processor, and I might even make a print or 2 out of these if I like them. So thanks for coming along as ever, and I'll see you again on the next trip.